All right, are we ready to play the not so newlywed game? Okay. Everybody out there clapping are the ones that didn't volunteer. Boy, y'all cold. All right. What is your favorite dish your wife cooks? What is your favorite dish your wife cooks? Wives, write down what you think they're going to say. Favorite dish. Favorite dish. Aren't y'all glad y'all not up here? Y'all ain't got to say nothing. I already know. I see y'all looking like. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Couple number one. He said.
Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. All right, boy, y'all on fire. Hold on, man. Is this a Morse code y'all doing? Y'all tapping on the... They tapping on chairs? Or... All right, couple number two. What do you have?
Chicken.
Chicken. He said chicken. All right, all right. I like. Couple number three.
Oh, chicken and dumplings.
Chicken and dumplings. What do you have? Fruit salad. Oh, fruit salad. Wow. Now, she said she can cook. We ain't say put together. Mix up. Toss. Ooh. Well, you got one, though. Everybody doing all right. Y'all not in trouble yet. Let's see. These questions are for the wives, all right? All right. Now, what is the one item of clothing your husband wears that you just can't stand? You can't stand it. Oh, them socks with the little rubber band that... Them shoes that are too pointy. Y'all ain't with me. All right. The one item of clothing that your husband has that you cannot stand. We're counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Couple number one.
None.
Hey, I
Oh,
almost
she hat. Wears his hat too high? Is his hat too small, or is it? What's she saying? Over in Britain. Oh, I got you. You should have put none. Okay, all right. Couple number two.
Green pants.
Green pants.
I put brown slippers, but it is the green.
Brown slippers, but it is the green pants. Oh, what those green pants look like? What? Oh, man. Do they go with a suit? Is that? No? Okay, all right, okay.
There's some tennis shoes that I love. Oh man, I love them shoes.
What'd you put?
Tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes, all right. Boy, she had that in big capital letters. Tennis shoes. She was drawing.
If we could just going down the line, just so that our audience can get to know each of you just a little bit better. Could you all tell us your story? How did you meet, and how did you come to the decision to get married?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My wife and I, we met in high school. At the wait. She does this all the time. She does this all the time. I
love Miss Cousin.
I was in the band, and her cousin and I was in the same class. And at a football game, she asked her cousin, "Who is that tall, handsome-looking guy?" And her cousin says, "He's in my class. You want me to introduce you to him?" Evelyn says, "Yes, I assume." So she told me, "Harry, cousin, my cousin like you." And I said, "Okay, I have to look into that." And so we met, and we decided to do a movie date and go to the carnival and things like that together. And it went on from that. And that's how we got started. We dated for about 2, 3, 4 years, and we got married while I was in the service.
Next.
Well, it's sort of interesting way we met. I'm basically from East Texas, a small country town called Blvd. How many people out there know where Blvd is? And I was back in those years, high school principals kept up with you. I was supposed to be coming down in Houston for school, but I decided to go to Fort Worth. And I didn't come down to Texas Southern, so he called and convinced me to go into pharmacy. And I came to Houston, and I was in Fort Worth because I wanted to really go in the military. Because back in those days, the way out of East Texas, out of rural areas for African American male was through the military. So all my brothers and everybody always had gone off to the military. So that's why I was in Fort Worth, because I was looking Caldwell Air Force Base. But also, that military streak in me, I joined the Navy Reserve. And I came down to Houston at Texas Southern College of Pharmacy. And see, my parents couldn't afford to send me through school, so I knew that. I knew I had to work, so I stayed with my brother, who was a Houston fireman. And he was North Street there in South Union. And I would get off the bus and walk up North Street, and my eyes fell on being from the country, to see someone having a garden in Houston, that was sort of interesting. But it wasn't the garden. The garden first excited me. The next thing I saw was that there was a young lady with her mother hoeing in the garden. Now, see, I'm a country boy. That's what exciting. I didn't say anything to her. I just walked on past. I don't think she even noticed me. And in the morning time, I would look out the window when she was catching a bus. Well, she was walking off to school. I said, she looks interesting. So she was babysitting for my brother. I came home one night in my Navy uniform. Back in those days, the old story about those sailors. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know. So I had a reputation. Not true, though. But I walked into the house where she was babysitting my niece and nephew, and she saw that sailor uniform. I don't even think she said hello. I just heard the door slam. And so that was our first interaction, and so that's how I met Teresa there as she was babysitting. And then, interesting, she needed a date for our senior prom. She never dated anyone. That's what she told me, through high school. she convinced my sister-in-law to ask me to take her to prom to Worth, and so that's how it all got started.
I'm not from Houston. I'm from San Felipe, Texas. That's a metropolis west of Houston, between Brookshire and Sealy, Texas. Anyway, I came here in the 60s, 1960s, and I went to work at a grocery store, and my wife went to work at a five and dime store next door, and so I would see her every day, and she was a little bit younger than me at the time. And so I didn't pay a lot of attention to her, and her brother and I got to be friends, and I was over to their house, in and out and everything, but I still didn't, she was still just a little girl, to me. And so she graduated high school, and she was still working over there, and over the summer something happened to her. She lost all her baby fat and And so I started to look at her a little differently. And so I asked her out a couple of times, and the parents were real strict, and they thought that I was too old, and I didn't think I was too old, so I persisted. And so after they kind of met me and everything, they kind of eased up a little bit, but that's basically how we met. She was working next door, and we, about 2 weeks into the relationship, I asked her if would she consider me as a husband. And it was, I wasn't asking her to marry me, I just asked her if she would just consider that. And so, because if she was not interested, you know, then I was just going to kind of beg off and move on. But she said that she, you know, she would consider it, and so we stayed around each other and everything, in and out. And 5 years later, we got married. I too was in the service at the time, and we've been together ever since.
And Mr. and Mrs. Pugh, y'all have been married how many years? 50 years as well. This truly is the golden panel, amen? And we're so excited to hear from you. If there's anything that you all could change about your story or your history together, what would it be? If there's anything you could change.
I think I'll go first on that. I think that young people, you're doing better. Because before we married, we didn't have marriage counseling, but you do. And that's very important. You need to have life goals that are similar. They don't have to be the same, but they need to be similar. You need to know what your spouse wants out of life, and it needs to match or coordinate with what you want out of life.
Amen.
Good.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I wish that it's not going to be bad is that during the era that we got married, marriage counseling was not that readily available. And I know nowadays, you know, couples can get marriage counseling, and so, you know, we didn't have that then. So when we got married, it was like, it was just experimental. We had to experience everything on our own and learn as we went along. So one of the things I wish that I had understood more of my role as a wife. I think nowadays women don't really understand their role as a wife and how to function in that role. So if you don't understand the role, then you don't know, you know, how to function. And I felt like I didn't really understand my role as a wife. We loved each other, but you can't just live off of just love, romantic love, you know. So there are other things that go into play in your relationship. So I wish we had been able to get some marriage counseling. And the second thing is that even though we were both Christians and born again, we did not have any biblical teaching at all. So we did not understand our relationship with God. We didn't have any word in us. So I believe when couples get married, that when Christ is the center of your life, then you can get teaching, biblical teaching, and you'll have a foundation that you can build your lives on. So that's one of the things that I wish we had been able to incorporate in our marriage prior to getting married.
Teresa. We didn't have the counseling during that time because that was back in the day. And if my mom always say, listen to your husband, you know, and I'm hearing that, listen to your husband. If we had counseling, but it was like learn as you go, you know. I was married, you know, we was young, and we got married, we had our apartment together, and we had to do things together, not as individual, you know, and I got to do this and I got to do that, I cook, and we didn't have that counseling, but we learned. We had to learn, you know. I'm picking up his clothes, putting his shoes here, you don't want to do that, and I'm like, listen to your husband, Mom say, but things we had to learn as we go. It got better through the marriage, but it was hard. It was hard because he wanted one thing, I wanted the other thing, and and it's different. But we had to learn to give in, and it's learn as you go. But God kept us together. Believe me, trust me, because sometimes you just wanna go, but you had to, hang in there. We had moved to Texas. We was from Florida, and it was in Abilene, Texas, and I'm like, we was away from family, and this is the first time I'm in an apartment ever when we got married, and so we was on our own, and it's like, you can't call to your parents, you go for advice, but to help, we had each other, and so we had to depend upon each other and do things for one another, and God kept us together, truly.
Amen.
I'd like to say some more on that. We wasn't in the apartment. We were in a room. I mean, when we first got that,
we supposed to be moving, and so he gonna get me a house. He gonna look for his apartment. I said, oh great, he looking for his apartment, and so I was so happy we was gonna get our first apartment. And so when I moved to Abilene, Texas, I pulled up, and it was an old house. I'm like, and we was living with somebody. They had a room in there, and we lived in that room. And they had, come to think of, what the dogs? They had pit bull dogs in the back in our room. And when I pull up there, I said, this is the place, Evelyn. And I'm like, it was a throwdown.
There's a reason why to that. When we were first to Abilene, segregation was still bad, and we couldn't get a good apartment in the white area. The better apartments were in the white areas. And I talked to this one black lady. She said, well, I know this lady named Miss Turner. She has a house, and she has some rental house. You get something there, but she didn't have anything. She said, I have a room back there that you guys can have, and we'll stay there. So we wound up staying there for almost a year. And right behind the room we stayed in, they have dogs back there. So it smelled pretty bad in the summertime. You open your window. And eventually, and money was real tight too. Money was real tight. And we learned how to budget real well. We didn't have nobody but ourselves. We didn't have any money. We couldn't call home to our parents because they didn't have anything to give us. And at the time, I was making about, you didn't have that much. I was making less than $200 a month. Yeah. We probably could qualify for food stamps if there was some or whatever, but we didn't know anything about that. And they didn't tell black people things like that. And it was really a struggle. But eventually she got a job at the watch factory. We found this garage apartment that this Caucasian lady would rent to mostly blacks. And it wasn't that bad. And I got to stay there, and one of the young guys there was apartment manager. He got shipped out. I took the job as apartment manager. Then I didn't have to pay rent anymore. But that only lasted about a couple months because I was getting ready to get shipped overseas, which I didn't know. So, but by the time I did my 4 years in the Air Force, I was making a little over $200 a month, and I thought I was rich. Because we learned how to budget. We really learned how to budget. So it worked out for us in the long run.
Amen. All right. We wanted to, and I know that everybody, you all, Mr. and Ms. Cousins, started answering some of this, but I'm going to start down on this end, Mr. and Ms. Pugh, and we're going to work our way back down. What would you attribute the longevity of you all being together, one? And then number two, what is the best advice that you can give younger couples who would seek to be married as long as you all, and in regards to mistakes that we happen to be making that are, that you think are obvious, as younger couples? So how have you managed to stay together this long? And then what mistakes are we making that you see younger couples making?
I think that you have to manage your give and take. There are a lot of things that's going to come up that's going to be conflicting, and when these things arise, you may not agree on them, but you have to agree to bury them and move on. You're not going to agree on everything. And arguments, nobody really wins an argument, so you might get the last word in or you may not, but that's not, that it's more detrimental getting that last word in than it is if you would just let it go. You know, just let it go and move on.
And with him, I let it go. Okay. I let it go. I moved on. Okay. But I think Ray's right about that. I like to get the last word. And I came from a family where my father allowed my mother to get the last word. I didn't know he was allowing her. I just thought she was smarter and quicker and could put her words together faster, and she got the last word. I brought that into my marriage, and I didn't understand why it didn't work. And I didn't understand that other families didn't argue and didn't let the mother get the last word, and she told everybody what to do. My husband came from a family where his grandmother raised them. He lived with his grandmother and his grandfather, and his father was there as well. And they didn't have any bickering and fussing. Well, it was 9 kids in my family, and I came from Sunnyside. And my mother would fuss and tell us off or whatever. I tried to do that too, and it was really, I think, if it's anything that I would change, is that I wouldn't be that kind of person. I wouldn't be the one to get the last word and fix the words faster and put you down. That's where I came from, raised right. You have to learn how to, sometimes you don't have to get the last word if you can maneuver what you want. See what I mean? Okay.
It's your influence.
What did you say, maneuver what you want? I like that. That's interesting. When I look back over my life, my family, I'm from a family of 11. And so, and of course, I said earlier, being raised in the country, that was very educational to me, to recognize that, and also recognizing the role, recognizing first of all that God made us all different. You know, if and I recognize that with Teresa, because if God made us all the same, it would be a messed up world. So we I had to understand that, I had to respect that also, that staying focused in what I wanted to accomplish in building a relationship, looking above the ceiling of something and wanting to do something. So I was always that person who wanted to accomplish a lot, and Teresa sort of understood that, because we moved all around the country as I pursued different degrees and programs, but also recognized Teresa lost her father when she was 8 years old, and because he was electrocuted here in Houston on building the Prudential building. So Teresa, and then she lost her brother and other brothers and everything. So I recognized I also almost became a father to Teresa. And I think that's why I let her get away with a lot of things.
Not that much.
And so, and knowing that and working together, the peaks and valleys, the cheers in the valleys, and also like the cheers on top of the hill, because they're always going to be different, because you grow by experiences. You're going to experience a lot of things. You know, you need to know how to work through those, and then look back and recognize that really wasn't as difficult as you thought it was. And also you have to recognize a team. I recognize, look at us as partners, where my strengths are maybe Teresa needs those weaknesses, and vice versa. So putting those two together, we have become a team as we approach different situations. We look at that way. So we've been very blessed, and of course I always have to say the understanding of the role of God in our lives has really made us weather the storms, because truly we have gone through a lot. And when we look at and it took us a long time to recognize your source and resources. And once and I always say, you know, you're 50 or 60-year-old, and you look back and find out all the things you've been worn, all the material things you've been worn, you really, once you get our age, you recognize you really didn't need them. But you have to get at that age to recognize that. But also you have to recognize who really bring you through a lot of that. Because if I look at some of the situations we've been, if I had to work it out myself, we wouldn't be where we're today. So we have to recognize that and give credit where credit is due. And that has always been a strength in our lives. And we also have to pass that along to our children.
Well, I would like to say through all the struggles that we have gone through, it's helped to make us stronger and helped us to build a stronger relationship, because we've had to really lean on each other and lean on God to help us through the struggles we've had in life. And one of the things I would say to couples is not to try to change your partner, but celebrate that person's uniqueness. You're two unique individuals coming together. And women should not try to change their husbands. Husbands should not change their wives. That's one of the things that I had to learn. It was a learned behavior. I had to learn the hard way. You know, don't try to change your mate, because you'll be frustrated, anxiety, and you can't change him. Only person who can change him is God. So I learned that if it's something about my husband that, you know, that either I thought that where he should change, I prayed about it and let God change him, and I had to be patient and wait on that change. But otherwise, if it was a behavior he had, a characteristic he had that I maybe didn't agree with, then I had to learn to make adjustments and come into agreement with that and to celebrate that uniqueness in his life. So we learned to do that. And also couples should learn to plan and build a life together. Don't wait till you retire. Then when you retire, it's like you don't know who each other are. You know, you look at each other like, who are you and who are you, you know. So you have to build your relationship early. Learn to do things early, because when you retire, both of you are going to be in the house together, and so you're going to have to.
Yes, Lord.
Yes. And you have all this time, because we are living longer now, and you have all this time together as a couple, so you're going to have to learn to enjoy things. That there are certain things my husband like that I don't really care for, but I learned to adjust in that, and he learned to include me in it. There are things that some things I like to shop. My husband doesn't care anything about shopping, but he would take me shopping, and he'll take a book and he'll find him a seat in that store somewhere and let me shop. So it's just things like that that you have to do to incorporate, you know, with each other in your marriage, that really help us build a strong marriage.
Teresa and Richard is just about summed up everything I was going to say. But one thing I think that kept us together a long time is that we have God in our lives. And you have to really love one another. We get upset with each other and might not talk for an hour or two in the house. One of us break down. We care too much for each other to stay mad. So it makes it last. We love each other too much to be that way. And that has helped us a lot.
What do you all think, young couples, in your opinions, that you see, you know, that we're doing that hinder us possibly from making it 50 years in marriage?
One thing that I could say, I think one of the things is that I think a lot of the kids that they'll spoil, you know, the parents they have a lot more. When we were coming up, we had to make fun. We didn't have any video games. We didn't have any movies to go to. You didn't have a TV. I remember when I was growing up, not when we first started. We would go to one person's house who had a TV and everybody would get around and look at it. But we made fun for ourselves. We created things. We would take our skates and put them on a 2x4 and make a scooter out of it. And we just had time. We didn't have as much idle time. We didn't have time to be entertained. And I think another thing is I think the kids today don't have that. They want to have their way on everything, and they'll break up for any little thing if it's not their way. And you get different personalities with conflicts. If I can't have it my way, I'm done. I'm gone. You know.
So we grow up and take that into a relationship and just wanna.
They don't.
And you put the mic up.
Together.
What is that?
You know, spend time together. Like I tell my daughter, when they go out to parties, she want to go her way and her husband go that way. And they don't want to try to do things together. He got his friends, he want to hang with his friends, and she want to hang with her friends. And they should try to get together. You know, you tell them to try to go together, but he gonna do his thing and she gonna leave him out. That type of thing. They don't make a commitment to one another. You have to try to get along, you know, but they don't make an effort. They just say, well, you know, I'm going to this party and he can go to his party. Sometimes they do go out together, but if that'll bring them closer if they would learn to try to get along.
Okay.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking that if you're in a dangerous situation, yes, you need to get out of that situation. But I think sometimes we move in anger and we may do something before we cool down.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about you're really, really mad, say, okay, I'm getting ready to leave. And then 2 or 3 days later, it's like, what was I mad about? Am I really mad? You know, so if you're going to make a move, or if you think you need to make a move in your marriage, I think you need to wait until you're level-headed.
Yes.
Find a mentor or someone that you trust, someone that's been in a marriage that will tell you the truth. They won't say everything has just been roses the whole time and I love him and he loves me and we respect each other. You don't need that mentor. You need a mentor that will tell you the truth and tell you marriage is hard. You have to give and take. Don't do anything while you're mad. Okay. Ray and I stayed together, but we had many reasons to stay together, i.e., when I grew up, my parents, it was 9 kids, Daddy stayed in the house with us. I mean, he just did. I don't know how he did it, 9 kids and my mother, but he stayed with us. So I saw that, and that's what I wanted in my marriage. But I have some other people, and I won't call their names, there's a bunch of us, that divorced, and then they got married again, and it's not for me to say, but if they had waited just a little longer and kind of eased and thought about it a little bit more, you know, the first one may have been as good or whatever as the second one. Think about that, because grass look green. Everybody thinks everybody else's husband is better or wife is better. But if you're gonna move and you know you got to get out, think about it first. Get somebody to talk to you that will tell you the truth. Many times that grass that looks green, once you get out there, it's not. So just take your time. If you're going to do a break, take your time. Because I have broken with him many times mentally, and he didn't know about it. I mean, I was finished. So, and then when I felt better, we're all right. So and I'm sure he's broken with me many times. So take that too, okay? All right.
I think that young people make the mistake of going into a relationship with the wrong concept. They are looking for one thing and they're seeing something else on TV, and whatever they have seen and whatever they're looking for, neither one of them mix. It's always different. When you're forming your relationships, it's not going to be anything like you saw on TV. It's not going to be that, or in the movies. And I don't think they know what the word commitment is. They have some concept of it, but it's not really what it actually is. It means that, you're going to stay and however rough it gets, you're going to work it out. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that, they did this to me, they did that to me, and I'm out of here. And like my wife was saying, you may look over someplace and you see something going on over there, and you say, oh, that's wonderful. That's where I should be, and that's the way I should be treated, and whatever. But if you ever get over there, you will find that what you were looking at is not what was going on over there. So you may as well stay where you are, work it out, and make it good.
Well, I think a lot of times sometimes couples build their relationship upon fantasy expectations. And then when they get married and these expectations are not fulfilled, they don't want to endure and persevere. They don't want to communicate. Communication is vital in a marriage. Talking and listening with your heart, and trying to get an understanding from your mate and from your partner. Again, a clear understanding with one another. So learn to communicate in love, learn to listen to one another. As Harry and Evelyn was saying, couples don't want to endure and persevere. Young couples nowadays are spoiled. They live in a microwave generation. They want everything, they want it right now. They live in overload, and they have to work, sometimes 2 and 3 jobs. So, you have to discuss your goals and objectives and where you want to go in your marriage prior to marriage. She might want to keep her own money, her own bank account. And he has the idea that we're going to have joint bank accounts. And so when you get married, you don't discuss that prior to marriage. So when you get married, then it's a conflict. And then couples don't know how to resolve conflicts in love. So you have to talk these things out prior to marriage. She doesn't want to have children because she wants a career, but he thinks we're going to have 4 or 5 kids. So when you get married and all these things come up, then you have conflict because you didn't discuss this prior to marriage. So there's so many other things I could say where couples make mistakes, but those, I think, are some of the primary things, areas where they make mistakes.
Very good. So overall, when we look at some things, young families and families in general, there's a miscommunication with older individuals in your family. This ought to go across the whole basis. If you have a parent or grandparent, sit down and talk with them, because there is a growing disconnect between the younger people and the elderly people in your home. If you have someone that's been married like we've been married, or just a senior, talk with them, because what's also causes this is we don't know our history. In each generation, it is said the African American group is 1 generation from losing our history. That means every time African American 90 years old and above pass, and we all have those individuals in our family, that history is gone with them. And you talk about wisdom as young people, and that's one of the major missing link, that old wisdom. That old wisdom is the root of any family, and that's important. Because I can look back at my family, loving them there. I can remember my mother plying a mule in the field, and so and then preparing 3 meals a day for all those kids. So when I look at someone and think about the problem they having now, and the stress they having now, and not having to worry about going cook, you can go to one of these stores, buy everything you need, and stick it in the microwave. So and then of course that's not quality food anyway. But I would just suggest to share and talk with someone that's a senior in your life, and just let them share and tell you what you think rough times are right now. You talk to someone 80, 90 years old before all that you see now, and let them tell you how they survive, and then use that and apply that in your life.
Well, we thank you all so much for sharing your wisdom with us tonight. And now is the part of the evening where we're going to entertain questions from our audience. The first question is addressed to those who mentioned being in the service. While apart in the service, how did you, as a couple, rebuild your connection upon your return?
How do you build a connection?
Yeah,
Tell the
use your
truth,
microphone.
I was so glad he came home. I didn't know we needed to build a connection. We just got a little apartment and just started looking for jobs, ready to look for a job, and I was already working, and we just went from there. I didn't know that it was a disconnect. I was lonely. I was happy he was at home, but when he came home, he was a little bit different because he was in the Vietnam War. But I could tolerate that because honestly, I loved him. So hey, we just went on. We didn't build.
I'm with her. I don't remember any rebuilding process. We just kind of got together and kind of resumed, you know, and went on, and it was whatever it was.
Yeah, I was glad for him to come back. I was praying, and this was going to be the first time he was there in church. And it was just a happy time, you know. Telling love all over.
Aww, sweet.
He kept me good with a lot of letters. I did a lot of letter writing in the church. There was not a lot to do there. The part of church that I was in, there were about 35.
Mr. Cousin, I don't know if your microphone is on. Is it on? Okay.
She wrote me a lot, kept me busy. I wrote a lot of letters. Wasn't a lot to do when I wasn't on duty. And
Well song was out there about two lovers. I was just the same. I used to do that all the time. And the mailbox. What's that one about
Mr. Postman.
The post.
Mr. Postman? I always listen to that music about, and I'm just the same. I used to love that song when he was in the service. And then another one that was out when he was in the service was about what's the black men talk? What's the name there?
Temptation?
No, they were singing about I forget. But anyway, I taped it, and my brothers just sent to him to the service, and I taped the Vicks talking too. But my brothers, them, they just disbanded the tape. But I was listening to those songs, and it was just a.
And I had a lot of home, like I say, through her letters. And her aunt sent me a lemon cake in Turkey, and she was wondering how did it work out. And my roommates, the first thing they did, say, "I'm going to get me a quart of milk right now," and they just enjoyed it, you know. So home was wasn't that far away through our letters and the boxes that they sent us occasionally. Wow. So.
Well, when Richard was in the service, he was in the Navy. We were not married. And so we dated for 5 years. I was in college, and you in the Navy Reserve, and you went off on active duty. We just wrote each other a lot. We wrote a lot of letters. As a matter of fact, I still have some of those letters that we wrote to each other. Mm-hmm. Yes. But we wrote each other a lot, and we talked on the phone a lot. We called each other a lot. We didn't want to hang up. So, it was just, we were in love.
Yeah.
So when he came back, it's when he asked me to marry him. Now you asked me to marry him while you were in the reserve. As a matter of fact, he sent me my engagement ring. He bought it while he was in the Navy, and he sent me my rings. He sent the whole set of rings. Because he was so sure, he sent the whole set of rings. Yes. Because I was at Texas Southern, and he wanted to make sure that I was going to be there when he got back for him. So he sent me the whole set of rings. So when he got back, we just, resumed, and we got married once he got back.
Yeah, I knew that with Texas Southern. So I was basically in the Navy there. So it was a relationship those years, and don't ask me to price those 2 rings I sent. But it was just knowing focus and what we want to do, and knowing that we had a future together, and that future wasn't the military or some other place, but back here and with her, and so I kept that focus, and in the Navy you can get involved with a whole lot of things, and your friends on. I don't say that, but you have to stay focused. You could either live that reputation of a sailor, or else you can want to go home. And of course I wanted to finish pharmacy school. That's what drove me, and I wanted to finish from the best pharmacy school in the nation. That's Texas Southern College of Pharmacy, and so that's the TSU love and come back and watch those guys there at Texas Southern while my wife was there. I had to make sure I did that.
It sounds like from all of y'all's answers that one, the U.S. Postal Service was awesome back then, and two, that y'all had a relationship that transcended distance. So it didn't matter whether or not you were in the same room together. you know, the relationship that you all had built together. It didn't matter whether you were near or far. The love was still present, which is amazing. So this is another question. After all these years, are you all still friends?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, our friendship has grown more and more over the years. And I mean, now it's like...
Turn your mic on, Mama. Mama, turn your mic on.
Yes, our friendship has really grown deeper and better. And now we just enjoy each other. You enjoy going places together. When you see him, you see me. And we always do things together. We enjoy, you know, similar interests. And so, yeah, we become better friends as we've gotten to know each other better over the years, as we've gone through struggles together. And now, you know, we just have a special bond and a special connection with each other that it just can't be broken.
Amen.
Same here.
Amen.
It's the same. I had something else to say when they were talking about letters, and my wife doesn't know this, but all those letters that she sent me, I still have.
Oh, that's nice.
And periodically I will pull them out and I will read every "I love you."
Oh, that's sweet. That's amazing.
He reads that out loud.
Yes.
Do you have any with you?
That is amazing. Now, this next question, it's a little racy, but actually two people asked the same question. What is an average time to have sex? What is an average time?
Hey.
How often?
Hey. No.
Do you mean age?
I think they mean frequency.
Oh, frequency.
Maybe we should.
Oh, wow.
When you're young, when you're out there when we was young, it was like. But now, as you get older,
I like that.
It might be less frequent, but it's still there. You know, even though I don't know, you know, it's still there.
Yeah,
it's still there. Yes, it's still there.
Okay. I think
Still
that you should go from kin to kin.
it's still there.
Yeah. What do you
It's still there.
I'm sorry. I think when you look at that, you want to look at it a little deeper, because one of the things I think happen now, that's where relations begin and stop. You know, it should be more than just having physical sex. You know, I think you need to understand prior and why you're having sex, and also look at the relationship you're building there, because you know you can have sex with anybody anytime you want to, you know, but what you want to do is make sure that it's from your heart, that is everlasting, because I think one of the problems we have now, there are too many people having sex and then they're suffering from just having sex. You know, you see, when I was born in the country, and my dad in the country, they told us, boy, if you have a relationship with that girl, you're gonna marry her. And if you have a baby about that young lady, you're definitely gonna marry her. So we've come to a point of time that is just sex. There's a responsibility with sex, and there's a responsibility on both parts, the male and the female. And I think they need to understand that the responsibility of having sex. And then that's when it's become like everything else. Once you understand and learn it, you enjoy it better. And then it's everlasting. And also it's something you never rush into. And so you build to that point. So I think that's important.
I want to say also that the importance of romance. A lot of times you focus on the sex and you don't focus on the romance. Romance begins prior to the bedroom. It begins in how you communicate with each other, how you talk to one another, the gentleness, the kindness, the respect toward one another. So sometimes couples focus just on the sex, and they're going to focus on the romance. So the romance, if you get the romance right, then the sex will automatically come. So as my husband said, it goes much deeper than just having, that sexual, physical contact. You have to begin the romance, cooking together, baking together, holding hands, kissing each other, touching each other. All that's a part of the romance. And couples don't spend enough time, touching, holding hands, just rubbing each other's back or whatever. That's the romance part. That's very important too.
Amen. Come on, can we give them a hand?